Okay, I'm going to get started this morning by just welcoming everyone. Welcome to Wat Tung Yu, Sawadee Kap. Nice to see everyone. Welcome to everyone online who's joining us as well. Today is Wednesday, which is our group learning program, where each Sunday and Wednesday I come together with students, helping them to develop a foundation on the path to enlightenment, understanding this path that the Buddha taught to be able to get to the enlightened mental state. The enlightened mental state is where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you will no longer experience any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings and others are completely eliminated from the mind. And this is accomplished through training of the mind. There's various training that the Buddha taught because he figured out how to get to this enlightened mental state. And then he taught for the rest of his life how to do that so that other people could experience the same mental state. So meditation is an important part of that training, but there's other things besides meditation that you would need as well. It's not just meditation that's going to get you to enlightenment, but we start our classes with meditation because it is an important component of developing your practice to be able to move the mind to enlightenment. So we start each one of our classes with meditation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start with some chanting to ease us into the meditation. You guys are welcome to join in the chanting if you like. I actually have laminated sheets over there on the cabinet that you're welcome to help yourself to. You can get one and you can see the chants that I'm chanting, and you can even chant along if you like. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory. They used it as a learning tool, that every 2 weeks they would come together and they would recite his teachings orally. And this is the way they were able to commit it to their memory, and then they were able to practice the teachings. So you can see from the origins of chanting that this isn't a rite or ritual or a ceremony, worship or prayer or anything like that. That's not what chanting is. Chanting was used solely as a learning device. But nowadays, sometimes people take on this mystical or magical approach to the chanting, but that's not the way that the Buddha used it. And that's not the way I use it either. It's used just to ease the mind in the meditation and actually get more benefit out of the meditation itself. That's the reason why I do chanting with students, because it's going to actually help you to get more benefit out of your meditation. So if you'd like to join along, you're welcome to. If you read the English translations, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of that, I don't think the Buddha even created these chants. They were probably created by his students either during his life or after his death, because a Buddha wouldn't go around and say, here, chant these chants to me out of respect for me. This would be like arrogance and ego. This would be like looking down on people and thinking that you're above someone. And someone who's gotten to enlightenment, they don't measure and compare each other. They don't look down on other people thinking that this person is below them. That would be the mind's judgment. It's like having a pecking order in your mind, like an animal, where human beings, we don't need that pecking order. We don't need that ego. We can look at everybody as being equal. So a Buddha, someone who's gotten to enlightenment, this Buddha, this fully perfectly enlightened one, he wouldn't have gone around and shared chants and say, here, chant this for me out of respect for me, because this would be ego and arrogance. But if you learn from a teacher how to move from anger, sadness, frustration, and all these other discontent feelings to the peaceful and joyful mental state that is enlightenment, and this teacher didn't want anything from you or expect anything from you, they just helped you out of the kindness of their heart, you'd probably have a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for that person too. And that's why I think that these chants actually came from his students, either during his life or after his death. So I chant these as a way to help you to get more benefit out of the meditation, and you're welcome to chant along, because that's where the real benefit is actually going to come from, is you actually doing the chanting. After the chanting, I'm going to then come in with some guidance to be able to essentially teach you and instruct you how to meditate while we're actually meditating together. Then there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet and we're just all meditating. Everyone here and everyone online who's joining us, we'll just all be meditating together at the same time. Now, during that period of time of quietness, I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds. You might hear a car going by, a dog barking, a bird chirping. This is all normal. If you're in meditation, craving for permanent silence, when you hear a sound during meditation, you'll cause your mind to be annoyed or frustrated or irritated. It's your own mind that's causing that frustration because you have a craving for permanent silence when you live in an impermanent world. The world around you is constantly changing. It is not permanent, but the mind in the unenlightened state will crave permanence. And as long as you're craving permanence, when you experience impermanence, this change, your mind won't like it and you'll experience annoyance or frustration. So when you're in meditation, if you hear someone sneezing or coughing or any kind of sounds in the environment, just know that that's normal. That sound's going to arise, it's going to change, and it's going to fade away. This is impermanence. And as long as you're not having a craving for permanence, you can reside peaceful and joyful in your meditation, understanding that the world's functioning exactly the way it was intended to function, which is with this impermanence. Then after the quiet period, we're going to come out of that meditation with some more chanting, and then that's where I'll start today's class. I'm just going to give you guys a little taste of the teachings of the Buddha and essentially open up to any and all questions that you guys have. Wednesday is kind of like a free-form question day for any and all questions that you guys would like to ask. And we open up for questions at other times during our teachings as well, but today is just kind of more or less a question and answer session with just a little bit of exposure to the teachings of the Buddha at the beginning. So in terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught. He taught seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you can use these and learn these at different times because your body can't permanently be in exactly the same position. It's just not possible. But oftentimes people are learning in the seated position to get started, and then they learn these other positions, kind of expanding their tool belt and getting more tools as they journey on their path to enlightenment, because you're going to need these different tools at different times. The seated position is very common, so I'll give you guys some guidance on the seated position just to help you guys along to understand the seated position. There isn't just one fixed way to sit. There's multiple ways to sit. If there was just one way to sit, that would be permanence. And we understand the world's full of impermanence. All of our bodies are different. We're going to find different things to be comfortable. So what I share with you are just suggestions or recommendations for you to consider. But what's important is that you find what's comfortable for you. Even if it's not something that I've taught you, you can sit however you're comfortable. There's not just one way to sit. But if you're on the floor, you might have some cushions or under your rear. This is kind of common to have some cushions under your rear. If you're going to bring your legs together in the cross-leg position, you like to do that just lightly. Whereas if they're real tight, it can impede the circulation and cause pain in the lower body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets the hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, allowing the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use it. But again, it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. There's other options here. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. If you're at home or here at the temple, you might be in a chair, you might be on a bench or a sofa or in a wheelchair. These are all options for you as well. If you're sitting in one of those types of devices, you might decide to put your feet flat on the floor, or some people like to cross them lightly at the ankles. But you can see me sitting in a chair with my legs crossed, so this is an option for you as well. And then you can put your hands and arms wherever you're comfortable. In terms of your upper body, it's helpful if this is erect, with your sternum up and your shoulders back. It'll help keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, because this is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. And you would like the mind to be attentive and alert during this training. So if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you're real rigid, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the sternum up and the shoulders back, because it'll keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, but it'll also help it to make it easy to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So again, I'm going to do the chanting to ease us into the meditation. You guys are welcome to join in for that. And then I'm going to come back in with the guidance to help you. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Makewa Otang Makewanang Apiwate Ami Sawakato Makewata Tammo Damang Namasami Supatipano Makewato สาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสตาตาวะมนุสนังพุทโธภะคะวะติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you'd like to just establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมะกะวาพุทธังภะคะวันตังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมะคะวัตตาธัมโมธัมมังนัมสสามิสุปฏิปันโนภะคะวะโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิจาจารณังสัมมุโนสกขาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังพุทโธภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, welcome to everyone. Nice to see everyone here this morning. Sawadee Krap. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. I'm going to share a little bit of a taste of the teachings of the Buddha with you guys, and then I'm going to open up to any and all questions that you guys might have about anything that I've taught or anything that's going on in your life or anything you're seeing in the world about the teachings of the Buddha. You can ask any and all questions that you like. When we get to that period of time where you can ask questions, if you're here at the temple, we have microphones here in the white bowl. If you could just come get a microphone. If you take it back to your seat with you, you can press the gray button. You'll see the lights come on, and you just hold it up to your chin, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. And then you can just keep these microphones with you because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can just share the microphone with the people around you. And then if you're not using it, if you could turn it off, that'll be helpful so we don't get feedback through the speakers. And if there's anyone online who would like to ask questions, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section. I'll be able to see that and answer your question. And if you're in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and ask any and all questions that you like. This meditation that we just did, it's called Breathing Mindfulness Meditation. This is one of the primary forms of training that the Buddha used in order to move his mind to enlightenment, but you wouldn't be able to just meditate your way to enlightenment. There's much more than just meditation that you would need, but you also wouldn't be able to get to enlightenment without meditation either. You need a meditation practice. What enlightenment is where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. It's a permanent mental state that you will be experiencing for the rest of this life. And you accomplish this through uprooting certain pollutions of the mind. The Buddha discovered these 10 individual pollutions in the mind. And when you train your mind and you uproot these pollutions out of your mind will start performing optimally, gradually, slowly but surely. It's gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress that one moves their mind to enlightenment. One of the biggest myths about the life story of the Buddha is people think that he sat under a tree, he meditated, meditate and instantly got to enlightenment. And this isn't actually true. You can see it in his actual teachings that he talks about gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. And you can see that everything in your life has been that way, that whether it's learning to read, write, and speak English or some job or occupation, it's been gradual training, gradual practice, or gradual progress that you've experienced that. And it's the same thing with the teachings of the Buddha, that you're gradually training your mind, moving it to enlightenment. You'll notice that when you uproot these pollutions out of your mind, it'll perform optimally in that you'll find that you're focused, you'll have concentration, you'll have clarity, and you'll have deep memory in your mind because the mind isn't polluted any longer, so it'll perform optimally. You'll notice that your personal and professional relationships will really be blossoming. They'll be at ease because you won't have bitterness and harshness and hostility in your mind any longer. Right now, there's probably certain relationships that you struggle in, and you might actually blame what you experience on other people. That's typically what the unenlightened mind does when it has a lack of wisdom, is that when you get angry, when you get frustrated or agitated or annoyed, you probably blame it on other people. And if this is what you're currently doing, that's okay. Every unenlightened being does this. But when you cultivate wisdom to understand the truth, you'll be able to see that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. You'll be able to get to the point where you're not even in a bad mood any longer. If it was other people that was causing these feelings in your mind, you would never be able to eliminate them because you can't train other people to do things your way. So the teachings of the Buddha is about training your mind. It's essentially like a self-help program to learn and grow and develop and do this inner work within your own mind to uproot these pollutions and get to the point where your mind's completely peaceful and joyful. There isn't any belief in the teachings of the Buddha. There aren't any rites or rituals or ceremonies or worship or even prayer. If you've been exposed to these kinds of things and you've been told that it's the teachings of the Buddha, it's actually not true. You can see in his original teachings, which are in something called the Pali Canon. The Pali Canon are 45 volumes of books that are about this thick, that are the largest, most complete collection we have of the teachings of the Buddha. And you can see that he didn't teach any rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer, because what he's teaching you to do is cultivate wisdom and train your mind. And there's no amount of rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer that's going to help you to cultivate wisdom. It doesn't matter how much water someone sprinkles on you. It doesn't lead to wisdom. It doesn't matter how many strings people tie around your wrist. It doesn't lead to wisdom. So the Buddha is helping you to be able to train your mind and cultivate your mind about the world around you. When we talk about awakening to enlightenment, what we're talking about is cultivation of wisdom, cultivating the mind. There are certain natural laws that the Buddha taught that the mind in the unenlightened state is unaware of. And when you're unaware of those natural laws, you will tend to have certain struggles and difficulties in your day-to-day life. Certain relationships, you'll have struggles and difficulties in these relationships because your mind is navigating through a world that it doesn't truly understand. So it'll have struggles and difficulties. It's just like when we were children. We didn't understand the natural law of gravity. So we struggled. We had difficulties. We fell down. We hit our head. We bumped our elbows. We cried and cried and cried because we didn't understand these natural laws. This natural law of gravity is something that slowly but surely, we might say that we awakened to, that we cultivated wisdom about this natural law of gravity. We never believed in this natural law. We saw it for ourselves. In fact, we can see it. It's right there, right? We can see the natural law of gravity. There it is. We're not believing in it. We can see it for ourselves. And we cultivated wisdom about how to navigate the world based on this natural law of gravity. Where when we didn't understand this natural law, we struggled and had difficulties. And this natural law was affecting us, whether we were aware of it or not. But as we gained wisdom of this natural law, we learned things like tying our shoes a bit tighter. We stopped being so giddy and bouncing around like a kid on the sidewalk all the time. We looked at the surface of the sidewalk as we walked. And now we're at the point where we can climb ladders, we can ride bicycles, we can get on airplanes and fly all over the world because we might say we fully awoke to this natural law of gravity because we make wiser decisions about this. Well, there's other natural laws that are affecting you, whether you're aware of it or not. And that's what the Buddha taught you, is how to understand these natural laws and then independently verify them, not believing in them. You learn, examine, and investigate his teachings. You reflect on them to independently verify whether they're true or they're false. And then you practice integrating this into your day-to-day life. And now slowly but surely your mind gains this wisdom about the world you live in. And now you can navigate the world more peacefully. Because when you live in a world that you don't understand, you will struggle and you will have difficulties. difficulties. That's what the stress is. That's what the anxiety is. That's what the frustration or agitation or annoyance. It's the mind struggling in a world that it doesn't understand. The very first teaching of the Buddha is called the Four Noble Truths. This is where in 4 simple statements, you can learn the problem in the mind, the cause of that problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward of how to completely eliminate this from the mind. And you'll be able to see in this life that your mind is becoming more and more peaceful, more and more joyful. Your relationships are improving. The teachings of the Buddha aren't about believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. It's about learning, growing, and developing now in this life to be able to get to peace and joy in this life. And you'll be able to see that your mind's slowly doing that. The Four Noble Truths, these 4 simple statements, are things that you can independently verify. The first Noble Truth is helping you to be able to understand that the problem that the Buddha discovered in each unenlightened mind is that it experiences something called discontentedness. These are what's called conditioned feelings, that the mind experiences conditional pleasant feelings, painful feelings, and neither painful nor pleasant. Based on some condition, the mind experiences pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. But then, when that condition is no longer present, the mind moves to the painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, and others. And then there's neither painful nor pleasant feelings like shyness or uncomfortableness or displeasure. So the mind in the unenlightened state has something called craving, desire, attachment, longing, yearning, wants, and expectations. This is the second noble truth, helping you to understand that these conditioned feelings where the mind's going up and down throughout your life, it's being caused by craving, desire, attachment. The mind is longing, yearning, wanting, and expecting things to be a certain way. And if the mind gets what it wants, then it experiences pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, euphoria. But when the mind doesn't get what it wants, it gets painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others. Essentially, the mind in the unenlightened state is craving permanence, wanting things to be a certain way permanently. So if you get really happy when it's sunny outside, that's a conditioned feeling. Based on the condition that it's sunny, I will be happy. But now that sun is not permanent. So that means your happiness is impermanent. As soon as it turns to rain, you're frustrated or agitated or annoyed, right? Because you based your inner feeling of happiness on an impermanent condition, something that is not permanent. Or if you get really happy when your bank account balance is up here, that means when it goes down here, you'll be sad or frustrated. The only thing that's happened here is change. That's it. It's just changed. And the world is full of change. Everything around you is constantly changing. It is impermanent. Everything around you is impermanent. So as long as your mind is craving permanence, while you live in an impermanent world, you're going to sometimes get what you want and be so happy and excited about that. But in other situations, you're going to get angry or sad or frustrated. So if you get really excited when you have a boyfriend or girlfriend or husband or wife, that means when you guys break up, you'll be sad or frustrated or annoyed, or you might be lonely or bored, or you might be missing this person, right? This is what the mind does because it's craving for this relationship to be permanent. Or if you have someone who dies that's close to you, you'll be maybe sorrowful or grieving or sad. It's not because of your love that you're experiencing these things. Love is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. It's not because of your care, your concern. It's the mind holding on and craving permanence. As long as grandma and grandpa are alive, you're getting what you want and the mind's happy. It's getting those pleasant feelings. But when your mind doesn't get what it wants, which is grandma and grandpa being alive, or mom or dad or brothers and sisters when they die, the mind is holding on, wanting them to be permanent, when in reality they are impermanent. Because they were born, they had to die. But as long as the mind doesn't understand impermanence, it's going to hold on and crave this permanence. You can look at this if you've had like a brand new car or something like this. Maybe you got so happy and excited when you got that brand new car. You drive it off the parking lot, you had a big old smile on your face when you bought this new car. But then when you park it at a store and you go inside, when you come outside and you see a scratch on the car, you might be angry or frustrated or annoyed. It's not the scratch that's causing that. And it's not the person who scratched your car. It's the mind craving permanence, wanting this car to be permanently beautiful, when in reality you live in an impermanent world. Now, we're not talking about what's wise or unwise in this situation. We're just talking about true reality of what's actually happening to the mind. Because when we walk through a parking lot, we aspire not to scratch anybody's car. But the fact is that this car is impermanent. It's going to get scratches. The paint's going to fade. The tires are going to need to be changed. The upholstery is going to get ripped and torn. If you crave permanence, when these kinds of things are happening, you'll be frustrated or agitated or annoyed. And what the mind will tend to do is it will blame other people. You'll blame other people for the feelings you're experiencing. And this is where you might have pushed people out of your life. You might have pushed friends or family out of your life, thinking that that's going to solve the problem. But you can see that that didn't solve the problem, because you still get angry, you still get frustrated, you still get annoyed. If this person was the true cause of your painful feelings, when you push them out of your life, you would be peaceful from that point forward. But you weren't. You still get annoyed. You still get frustrated. Or the second thing you might do when you don't understand that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings is you might be bitter and harsh and hostile towards people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions, becoming unskillful. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another animal. It's like, do things my way. This is the mind trying to fear other beings into doing things your way. Because the mind thinks if I just get what I want, then I will be happy. But you don't understand that there's 8 billion people in the world and they can't all do things your way because of impermanence. Then there's the expectations that sometimes an individual will put on each other. That if you have a certain craving in your mind and you want people to do things a certain way, you might try to pressure or force them to do things your way. And the mind thinks this is the way to get to happiness, is to get everybody to do things my way. And then with the ego in the mind, thinking that my way is the right way and everybody else's way is the wrong way, this just precipitates the problem. So when the mind doesn't understand that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, you'll keep pushing people away out of your life, being bitter, harsh, and hostile to them, and then you'll put your expectations on people, and now you can't live with all beings harmoniously. You'll have broken relationship after broken relationship after broken relationship. In fact, some people might actually be doing this to you, where they're pushing you away, or they're being bitter, harsh, and hostile to you, or they're putting expectations on you. But there's a better way of life here that the Buddha taught. But you need to be able to see very closely what's actually causing these feelings within your own mind. So don't believe what I'm sharing with you here. None of the teachings of the Buddha are based in belief. You need to be able to independently verify what I'm sharing with you so you can have a breakthrough to understanding what's causing these feelings. That you can look at your own life. Maybe you got mad or frustrated or annoyed this morning or yesterday or last week. And in looking at that situation with these fresh eyes, with this new wisdom, maybe at that time you were looking to blame other people. But now look at that situation through this new understanding, that it's this craving, desire, attachment, this longing, yearning, wanting things to be permanent that is causing your mind to be frustrated or agitated or annoyed. If you look at that situation, you'll be able to see that there was something your mind was longing, yearning for. And if you would have got what you wanted, you would have been happy. But because you didn't get what you wanted, you were frustrated or agitated or annoyed. And if you can be honest with yourself and look at that situation, you'll be able to see that it's your own mind that's causing those feelings. And if you have trouble with that, when we get to the question period, let me know and I will help you. Because there's been plenty of students over the years that have asked questions. I had a student one time, they said, "Hey, David, I went to work the other day. My house looked beautiful. And when I came home from work after 8 hours or so, my wife had this craft project all over the house. And I got frustrated as soon as I walked in the house. How did my mind cause this frustration? Didn't she cause me to be frustrated? I wasn't even there. I just walked in. She's the one who messed up the house. Didn't she cause me to be frustrated?" No, she didn't cause your frustration. Your mind was craving permanence. You went to work with a certain expectation that your house was going to look exactly the same when you came home. The only thing that happened was change. That's it. It just changed. Your house can't look a certain way permanently. It's not possible.
Or say you go to the airport and you're so excited to come to Thailand and you just can't wait to get to Thailand, and you show up to the airport and your flight's delayed or it's canceled. You'll be frustrated. You'll be angry. Whereas if that flight took off on time, wow, you would have got what you wanted. You would have been happy. But if it was delayed or canceled, you were frustrated or agitated or annoyed, wanting these planes to take off on schedule permanently, where it's not possible. We live in an impermanent world. Not every single plane is going to take off as scheduled. There's going to be maintenance issues, crew issues, weather issues. These things are going to happen. This is just impermanence. But if you show up at the airport craving permanence, now you'll be frustrated, agitated, or annoyed, and it's your own mind that's causing that. It's not the airline. It's not the employees of the airline company. It's your own mind that's doing that. And when you see this to be true and you independently verify it in your own life, this is a real breakthrough for you. Because now, once and for all, you can understand what's causing these feelings and you can actually fix them. Because if you keep pushing people away, being bitter, harsh, and hostile with them, or putting expectations on people, you'll never fix it. You'll be angry and frustrated, sad, and having anxiety the whole rest of your life. There'll be stress in your mind the whole rest of your life. But when you can have this breakthrough to understanding the second noble truth, that it's craving, desire, longing, yearning, wanting things to be a certain way that's causing these feelings, then you can move to the third noble truth and see the solution that the Buddha explains to you, that you can eliminate your discontent feelings by eliminating the craving, the desire, the longing, the yearning, the wanting, and expecting things to be a certain way. You can come to the middle, where you can pursue things as a goal, as an objective or an interest, without this longing, yearning. So the third noble truth explains to you that it's possible to eliminate your discontentedness by eliminating craving, desire, attachment. And then the fourth noble truth is explaining to you the way to do that is the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path is a core central teaching of the Buddha that's going to guide you in how to train your mind. It's 8 individual factors that as you learn these, you essentially dial it into your life closer and closer. It's kind of like a speaker system. If you had a speaker system and you had 8 dials and you were tweaking those dials, you would get a better and better quality sound out of the speakers. Well, your mind is the same way. There's these 8 individual dials that if you tweak those dials, your mind will perform more and more optimally. And that's what the Buddha figured out on his own. That's what a Buddha is they get to enlightenment by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides. Then he dedicated the rest of his life to sharing his independently discovered teachings with countless people, so that then countless people got to enlightenment during his lifetime and after his death. And you can see your mind's moving closer and closer to enlightenment because you'll be in certain situations where you were once angry and frustrated, and now you'll be in that same situation and you won't have those feelings anymore. And then he preserved his teachings in such a way that countless more people got to enlightenment after his death. So this meditation that we just did, this breathing mindfulness meditation, is part of the Eightfold Path, where it's training your mind to let go, to let go, to let go. The goal of this meditation isn't to eliminate your thoughts. Sometimes people think that when I teach you to focus on the breath, and when you move off the breath, to cut that off and let it go and come back, they're like, oh, I had so many thoughts during my meditation. I'm no good at this meditation. This isn't true. That during the unenlightened mental state, you'll experience a bombardment of thoughts and you'll have lots of thoughts, or you'll have a thought, you'll follow it for a period of time, and you'll be like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm meditating. Let me bring my mind back, right? So what you're doing in this meditation is you're training your mind to let go. Because what craving, desire, attachment is the mind's holding on. It's craving permanence. And as long as you're holding on, you'll experience discontentedness. This is why when you first broke up with that boyfriend or girlfriend, initially you were angry, you were frustrated, you were sad, you were missing this person, you were lonely and bored. But at some point, you let go. And when you let go, that's where you regained your peacefulness. You were like, you know what? If he wants to be with someone else, so be it. And you let go. Or you're like, you know what, if she wants to move to another part of the world, so be it. And your mind let go. And that's where your peacefulness came back. You weren't lonely and bored anymore. You weren't angry and frustrated, perhaps, right? But as long as your mind's holding on, you're going to experience discontentedness. So the unenlightened mind doesn't know how to let go. So this meditation, when you're focused on the breath and it moves off the breath, you're training it to let go and come back. And now you're on the breath for a little bit longer, and now it moves off and you let go and you come back. Even an enlightened being, someone who has attained enlightenment, they will have thoughts during their meditation. But the difference is, instead of this bombardment of thoughts and this indulging in a thought, they will have a thought. They will know they have a thought, and they will cut it off and let it go and bring the mind right back to the breath. And there'll be quietness and stillness between their thoughts, where the unenlightened mind will get this bombardment of thoughts, or they'll indulge in a thought. So this meditation is training your mind to be aware when your mind has moved, and to be able to cut it off and let it go and come back, so that you can let go, let go, let go. So now in your day-to-day life, when you're noticing the anger starting to arise, you can let go, right? But if you haven't trained your mind to do that, you won't be able to do that. The mind will just hold on and hold on and hold on. So the teachings of the Buddha have an entire path that are going to guide you in transforming your mind and getting to the point where it's completely peaceful and joyful. And it's up to each individual to decide that that's something that they're interested in accomplishing. But oftentimes they don't understand this. So that's why, as part of the teaching that I do, I usually am teaching with visual aids and the books and the videos and podcasts and personal guidance and all the different things that I share with students. I help them to gradually learn about how to attain this mental state. And then you're welcome to ask any and all questions as you're progressing on the path. So if you guys would like to ask questions, I'm going to open up to your questions and see what you would like to ask, whether you're here at the temple or online, because what I gave you is just a little bit of a taste of the teachings of the Buddha. Understand there's much more to learn than just what I shared with you. It's not just like you can learn for 5 minutes and then instantly transform your mind. It took the Buddha 6 years to be able to get to enlightenment. So this isn't a 1 week thing, a 1 month thing, or even a 1 year thing. It's gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress that's going to ultimately lead to your peace and joy. But you'll see gradual improvement as you're progressing. I've had some students tell me as early as 2 days they've noticed improvement to the condition of your mind. What I usually suggest for students is to start out with this first book. You can actually get this for free if you'd like to get this book. You can download it from our website. You can get it completely free. You can take it and go print it if you like. You can get printed versions here by just reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can get it on Amazon if your country has access to Amazon. What I do on Sundays is I go chapter by chapter in this book, slowly helping students to understand the path. This Sunday, we're going to be in chapter 7, and each Sunday I go chapter by chapter by chapter. And then on Wednesdays, I have these sessions where I just kind of meditate with you, give you a little bit of information, and then open up to any and all questions that you have. I teach these classes at 9 a.m. Thai time and 9 p.m. And I live stream them all over the world so that no matter where you are, you can learn in a live class. Or if you can't learn in the live class, it's recorded on Facebook, YouTube, and our podcast. So that way you can actually learn at your own pace. So that way there's nothing standing in your way of learning. No matter where you are in the world, you can actually learn. So no matter where you are, there should be a time zone where you can actually meet for a live class, or you can watch the recordings. And then as you need personal guidance, there's 4 ways for you to get help from me. You can ask questions in class. You can post in our Facebook group, and I'm the only one who will answer your question there. You can send me a private message, or you can schedule personal guidance where we meet in person while you're in town, or even when you're traveling, you can schedule online through our website, and then we'll meet in Zoom one-on-one, and then I'll be able to help you. Because it's one thing learning in a class, but it's another thing relating it to your day-to-day activities and what you're experiencing. So whether it's your personal, professional life, as you're experiencing challenges, you'll have somebody that you can reach out to get help from, and I'll be able to help you. And I do all of this at no cost, because I know with 100% certainty that these teachings lead to enlightenment, and it's just a matter of you learning them well enough to be able to experience that same improvement to your mind and to your life. So if you guys would like to ask questions, you're more than welcome to do that. Again, if you guys could use the microphones here and online, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section, or in Zoom, you can raise your hand electronically. So is there anyone here or online that has questions? Yes, sir. If you could come get a microphone here, we have them, or Phyllis looks like she's going to hand you hers, and you can take it with you
You just need to just press the gray button, and you'll see the lights come on, and just talk from there.
Test. Thank you, Master. Actually, we have 3 groups of families from Hong Kong, China. We do a summer camp for our kids, so they are in the school right now. So we are here. Very glad to hear your voice. And I have a question that I totally agree that the universe is uncertain. We can face everything. And you say the car, we can break our car. If we say it's permanent, we should be very sad. Or it's my new car, why it's broken. Actually, no, it's not my problem because I can take this easily. I can feel peaceful about everything because everything is uncertain. But I gradually feel that I go to the other opposite side, that everything is uncertain. So it's nonsense. I live. For example, if I'm happy every day, this is our 14th vacation to be Chiang Mai. We're very happy. Before that, we go on vacation. We're very excited. But then I'll be very quiet and think it will be very quick 14 days vacation. It will pass. How time flies. Then we'll come back to face my daily life and daily work. So the 14 days is nonsense. If it's very happy, it will be very fast. When I encounter some anxiety or we always say, "Oh, how long? It's so long it will take." It's like enlarge our life, but the happiness like shorten our life because how time flies. So how do you think this kind of problem?
Yeah. So this is common for the unenlightened mind, that in some situations you're going to be happy, and in other situations you're going to be sad or frustrated or what have you. This is what the unenlightened mind experiences. But by the time you get to enlightenment, you can be happy in any and all situations. What an unenlightened being is tending to do is they're putting together a life for themselves based on what we call craving, desire, attachment, the mind's longing, yearning. The mind might be chasing after money, or it's chasing after a bigger house or a nicer car, or it's chasing after a reputation and trying to get members of the community to look at you in a certain way. And when you're chasing after all these things, you will put a lot of pressure and stress on yourself to be able to perform at a certain level because you're trying to acquire some material objects. And the mind thinks that this is what's going to lead to happiness. If I just get a bigger house, or if I just get more money in my bank account, or if I just get a nicer car, all these things the mind thinks is going to lead to happiness, but it doesn't. It leads to temporary happiness, where you get happiness once you get it, but then that happiness fades away because it's impermanent, it's temporary. So an individual will put a life together for themselves that they actually don't truly like. And now they need to take a vacation or a holiday from their life. And they feel great when they're on holiday. It's like, wow, I get to travel around. I get to see all these new things. I get to eat food. But now I got to go back to my life. Oh my goodness. I don't want to go back, right? But what the Buddha guides you to be able to do through this eightfold path, this core central teaching, is to put together a life for yourself that is the ideal life, that you thoroughly enjoy the work that you do, for example. Oftentimes people don't enjoy the work that they do. They really dread the work that they do, but they do it because they're getting a big paycheck perhaps. And that's what their mind is chasing after, that more money. Where this other thing over here that they actually enjoy, it's less money, but their mind is unwilling to do it because they're trying to live a certain lifestyle and acquire these certain material possessions. Whereas if you knock down that craving and realize that your happiness isn't going to come through material objects, then you'll feel more comfortable to do this thing that you thoroughly enjoy. So by the time you get to enlightenment, you'll be thoroughly enjoying the work that you're doing, and you'll be living a very peaceful and ideal life. But you need to be able to train your mind to knock down the pollution where the mind's craving and longing and yearning, because as long as you have that in your mind, you'll keep chasing, you'll keep chasing, you'll keep chasing. So you need to be able to see the conditioned pleasant feelings as part of the problem. Oftentimes when we talk about eliminating anger and sadness and frustration and all these feelings, people are like, yeah, I understand. But when we talk about eliminating conditioned pleasant feelings, sometimes people have trouble understanding. What you're eliminating is that conditional happiness or conditional excitement, where the mind in the unenlightened state has certain conditions that need to be met. And when those conditions are met, then you will be happy. But when those conditions are met, you will be sad or frustrated or irritated or annoyed. So essentially, like if the weather is this, if my mom and dad does this, if my bank account is this, if my boss does this, if my brothers and sisters do this, if I have this kind of house and this kind of car, then I'll be happy, right? But now your happiness shrinks. You're sabotaging your ability to be happy because all those things can't be true all the time. And even if they are, eventually you're going to want more money, right? This money isn't enough anymore. You want more and you want more and you want more. So the mind's never happy. It's always like the grass is greener on the other side. So as long as you allow the mind to experience conditional happiness, that means the sadness is waiting for you right around the corner. So for example, if you get really happy when you get a brand new job, you get so happy and excited. Oh my gosh, it's the best title, the best company, the best salary. The coworkers are excellent. I got this wonderful office. Oh, this is so wonderful. I'm so excited. And now you work in that job for like 2 or 3 years. You're so happy. You're so excited. But then the company goes out of business, or you get laid off, or you get fired. And now you're sad and you're frustrated. Because if you allow your mind to get conditional pleasant feelings based on some condition, that condition's not permanent. So as soon as that condition changes, your mind's going to end up in the painful feelings. So you need to be able to see the conditional pleasant feelings as part of the problem. That you'll never get to the permanent happiness if you keep allowing your mind to get temporary happiness. So by your mind getting excited to come to Thailand, and you're so excited to be here, well, when that condition isn't met anymore, your mind's stressed or sad or frustrated. That condition is going back to your life, right? So you need to be able to get to the point where you train your mind, and this isn't going to happen in 1 day or 14 days. It's not going to happen. But you need to get to the point where you enjoy coming to Thailand, you thoroughly enjoy it, you have a great time, but you also enjoy your life in China too, right? Right now, that's not the case. You don't enjoy that life because of the way you've constructed it, and the decisions that you've made are leading to this dissatisfaction. So you need to get to the point where you're not chasing, and you construct the ideal life for yourself so you can enjoy all aspects of your life. And that's why it takes gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. You can't just snap your fingers and change all these aspects about your life. Where what the unenlightened mind is going to do is it's going to keep trying to seek happiness externally. Right? If I get this house, if I get this car, if I get this job, if I get this money, then I'll be happy. But by the time you get to enlightenment, you'll be inwardly happy. It's called unconditioned happiness, where there doesn't need to be any condition met in order for there to be happiness. So an unenlightened being, when they wake up and they see it's sunny outside, they'll get so happy. They'll go take a shower, and they'll come out, and it's raining, and now they're sad or frustrated. But an enlightened being, they're already happy when they wake up in the morning. There doesn't need to be any condition met in order for that happiness to be in the mind. They're already happy. And now they see it's sunny outside. Sweet, it's sunny. I'm going to go outside for a hike. This will be awesome. And now you go take a shower, and when you come back, it's raining. And it's like, oh, it's raining. Okay, well, I guess I'm going to stay home and read a book, or maybe I'll go to the mall, or maybe I'll invite my friends over. We can have some dinner, right? You can maintain your happiness because your happiness wasn't based on the sun. So therefore, when the sun's not there anymore, you can maintain your happiness. So that's called unconditioned happiness or unconditioned joy, where the mind is just always joyful and always happy, rather than this conditional happiness. That if you have all these conditions, that means your ability to be happy becomes less and less and less. This is why some people, they're old and grumpy, right? Because they have all these expectations of what they want, and they're not always met. So they're old and grumpy. But you don't have to be old and grumpy. You can be old and cheerful, right? But you just need to train your mind to be able to do that. Make sense?
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome. So the Eightfold Path, I have it up here. It's actually all the way back here because in this program, I've taught this.
This is called the Eightfold Path. These are 8 individual factors that you need to learn and grow and develop. And you'd like to be able to learn this with the original words of the Buddha. There's plenty of resources out there in the world that are claiming that this is what the Buddha taught, but they're not using the original words of the Buddha. All the resources that I share are based on the original words of the Buddha. I show you exactly what the words of the Buddha are, and then I show you how to independently verify it so you can see the truth for yourself. So while this is just an image, behind each one of these factors are actually words from the Buddha. So if we go back even further, this is the original words of the Buddha on these particular teachings. So for example, something like right speech. This is the words of the Buddha, where he says, "In what, monks, is right speech? Refraining from lying, refraining from slander, refraining from harsh speech and frivolous speech." Each one of these are based in craving, desire, attachment, where your mind is longing, yearning, and wanting things to be a certain way. So he's not teaching you rules or commandments. He's not telling you what you should or shouldn't do. He's not trying to convince you of anything. He's helping you to see this natural law of cause and effect, or action and result. Some people call this karma, but in the original words of the Buddha in the Pali language, it's called kamma. He's helping you to be able to see wise decisions lead to wholesome kamma, or wholesome results, and unwise decisions lead to unwholesome kamma, or unwholesome results. And when you make decisions where, for example, there's lying, this is the mind craving something. You really want something, and if you tell the truth, you think you're not going to get it, so therefore the mind lies. Right? But now people find out your lies. They discover your lies. They see you as being undependable, untrustworthy, unreliable. And now you struggle in relationships, both personally and professionally. You have challenges. So whenever we lie, it produces unwholesome results, or unwholesome kamma in our life. When an individual is slandering, this is like gossip or slander. This is like diminishing and degrading other people's reputation, because the mind has a craving to look good in front of other people. And now the mind thinks, if I diminish other people and I make them look bad, then I will look good, right? But this isn't actually true. This isn't the way it works. When you're degrading and diminishing people through gossip and slander, it actually makes you look bad. It's kind of like the mind goes into a dark room and everybody's got a candle. And it's like, well, if I put out everyone else's candle, my candle will shine brighter. But no, we're in a dark room. We need everybody's candle to shine bright, right? So let's not put out anybody's candle, because when you're damaging people's reputation, at the height of this, you can be murdered, right? This is where investigative reporters go on the news and they are reporting on somebody's life, and now next thing you know, they're murdered. The Buddha's teachings aren't sharing with you the way the world should be. He's explaining to you the way the world is. And by understanding the way the world is, you'll navigate it more peacefully. And if you go out in the world damaging people's reputation, people are going to want to harm you. Because if you cause harm to them, this harm is going to come back to you. So at the height of this, you can be murdered, you can get beat up, you can have your material possessions destroyed. But at the very least, when you have your back turned, people are going to be gossiping and slandering about you. Because if you've ever done any gossiping, slandering, you can see that when your back's turned, those people are gossiping and slandering about you. Or this harsh speech. This harsh speech is where the mind also has craving, desire, attachment. You want things to be done a certain way. And the mind thinks, if I'm bitter and harsh and hostile with this person, then it's almost like fearing them into doing things your way. So like your life partner, your children, your parents, your siblings, these are the people that you'll have the most challenges with in your relationships, because your mind has the deepest craving, the deepest attachment to these people, expecting and wanting them to be a certain way. So now your parents, your life partner, your children, your siblings, you might be harsh and bitter and hostile with them. And you might be struggling in these relationships, and you might firmly believe that they're the problem. And now they might be doing something unwise, right? But that's not what's causing you to be angry. That's not what's causing your harsh speech. And when you're being harsh and bitter and hostile through your speech, that's just all coming back to you. You can see in those relationships where you're bitter and harsh and hostile, those people are bitter and harsh and hostile with you right back. So you're never going to get to peace and joy as long as your mind is being bitter, harsh, and hostile. And then I'll just round this out with frivolous speech. What this is where you have like a craving to talk, right? Somebody might sit down with you and talk, and it's just like yada, 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 yada. a yada, 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 yada. It's not really a conversation. It's more like a broadcast, right? They're like broadcasting to you and you're like, oh my goodness, when is this person going to be quiet, right? This is called frivolous speech, where there's just a craving to talk, right? So the Buddha teaches you this not as a rule or a commandment. He's showing you this natural law of cause and effect. And when you start implementing this in your day-to-day life, along with all the other teachings, you'll see that your relationships will improve. You'll see that the condition of your mind's improving. Because, for example, if we lie, if you've ever remembered back when we were children and we were lying a lot, you had to figure all that out. You had to think, what did I tell mom? Because when I tell dad, I got to tell him the exact same thing, because if I mess up and I tell the wrong thing, oh my goodness, I'm going to be in trouble. So now your mind is obsessively trying to figure out, what did you say to one person versus another, right? And now you got to keep all that straight. And that's a lot of work for your mind to be able to do that. So if you are able to just speak the truth, your mind can be at ease. You're just always speaking the truth. You don't have to obsessively figure out what you say to one person versus another. So there's various training here. This whole Eightfold Path, there's multiple factors, and part of it is moral conduct. Part of it is understanding wise moral conduct, because whenever you put out harm, this harm is going to come back to you. So this is where people usually start, is with the Eightfold Path. Any other questions? Looks like Phyllis has a question.
I have two questions.
Mm-hmm.
Is gratitude a conditioned feeling?
Gratitude is a mental state. It's not a feeling, because you can maintain your gratitude continuously on an ongoing basis. It's not just conditional. So you can maintain it in an unconditioned mental quality that is just always present, where someone, you're walking down the street and someone smiles at you, you're like, oh, wow, I'm really grateful for that. You might smile back, right? Because you already have gratitude in your mind. Or maybe you have gratitude for your parents, so you purchase them a gift, or you take them to the hospital, or you bring them some medicine, because your gratitude is there and it's ongoing, it's unconditioned.
Okay, so it's something that should be cultivated.
Yeah, it's a cultivated mental state that should always be present. Now, in the unenlightened state, it'll arise and it'll change and fade away, because the mind hasn't fully developed it, where in some situations you'll have gratitude, in some situations you won't. But by the time you get to enlightenment, it'll just always be present, where you'll have gratitude at all times as an unconditioned mental quality rather than as a feeling. Because a feeling will arise, it'll change, and it'll fade away, where by the time you fully cultivate your gratitude, it'll just always be present in the mind at all times as an unconditioned mental quality.
Also, in the Eightfold Path, is right view the easiest one to begin with and practice on a regular basis, and right concentration the most difficult, or should we try to practice all 8 every day? Should we focus our meditation on one or all of them, or?
Yeah, what you would be doing is practicing all 8 at all times. That's what you would like to be able to do. But as you're building this up in your life, you're usually kind of breaking it down and kind of focusing on different pieces at different times in order to really bring it up in your life. It's kind of like upgrading the operating system of your computer. You're upgrading the operating system of your mind. So you start out with right view. You start out establishing right view, because that's what brings your mind to understand that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. Because right view is the Four Noble Truths. Wrong view would be to blame other people for the feelings that you're experiencing. And as long as you blame other people for the feelings you're experiencing, you'll never get to enlightenment. You'll be angry and frustrated the rest of your life. That's why the Buddha starts with right view. Every brand new student would start with right view, the Four Noble Truths, having that breakthrough to understanding what's causing your discontent feelings. Then once you get that, then you move on from there. And then the second thing the Buddha would start teaching you is the moral conduct. Because as long as you're putting harm out through your moral conduct, through your speech, actions, or livelihood, this harm is just going to come back to you. It's kind of like an oil pipe has busted and spewing oil all over the world. you're not going to go clean up the mess first. You're going to shut down the oil pipe that's spewing oil all over the world. So as long as we're spewing unwholesome moral conduct into the world, it's just causing harm, and this harm is going to keep coming back to you. So we would teach you to shut down your unwise moral conduct as a second thing. But then what's supporting that to occur is the mental discipline. So you really need to learn that too. But there'll be periods of time where maybe you're working on right speech, and maybe, like, for example, that's one that people like to work on a lot. So maybe you're really paying a lot of focus and a lot of attention to right speech, but you're still meditating, for example, because that's what's going to help you to do right speech. But you're really putting that under a microscope and really focusing on that, while at the same time you're still practicing the mental discipline. It's just that you haven't maybe brought that up as strongly yet because you're really focused on this right speech part of it. You're welcome. Anything else you guys would like to ask? Yes, sir.
So, thanks a lot for your sharing and instruction. This is really thought-provoking for me, especially the purpose of meditation, because I always feel, frustrated about the endless thoughts during the meditation process. Because I thought, the purpose of that is really to keep a peaceful mind. But in reality, or according to you, the purpose is really to train the capability of letting go of the thoughts. So this is really thought-provoking. But, my question is really maybe another demonstration of my unenlightened mindset at this moment, because I still prefer certainty. I want to get some practical recommendations or takeaways. So my question is about, when is the best time to do this meditation? Should I make it as a daily routine, or I can do it after I feel frustration?
The goal would be to build up a regular, consistent practice of the meditation, where 2 or 3 times a day for upwards of 30 minutes, you're doing a session of meditation. So the Buddha meditated 3 times a day, morning, middle of the day, and evening. And what would be recommended is about 30 minutes. But understand that it can take you 6 months, a year, even 2 years to build up to that. Because there's probably certain unbeneficial things that each person's doing in their life right now that you might think that 2 to 3 times of meditation for 30 minutes or more is quite a lot for you. But if you start clearing out the things that are unbeneficial, like maybe someone's scrolling social media for 3 or 4 hours a day, if you bring that down to 30 minutes or an hour a day, whoa, you got a lot of time in your day to be able to do other things, right? Or there might be other unbeneficial things that someone's doing. So if you gradually build up your practice where you're consistently training your mind, then in the situation where anger is arising, your mental qualities are there to be able to cut that off and let it go. One of the things that the Buddha teaches you is that if you don't meditate, you'll regret it later. This is one of the things he teaches. So if you are meditating, though, consistently, you'll build the qualities of mind that you need in order to be able to apply the discipline of the mind in your day-to-day life. It's kind of like taking this body to the gym. Someone might take the body to the gym and they might exercise it. And then when someone's like, hey, can you help me move my sofa? Sure, why not? And now you can help them move the sofa really easily because you've got the strength to be able to do that. But the mind is the same way, that if you exercise it, now it'll be strong so that when you need it, you can actually cut this off and let it go. But if you weren't consistently training your mind, you won't have the qualities you need. And now you're going to regret it. When you feel guilt and shame and stress and anxiety, you'll regret having not meditated, because you could have meditated consistently throughout your days and weeks and months and years, and now you wouldn't have experienced that stress and anxiety. Another way to think about it is like when we were all growing up as children, we were all taught to clean our body. This is something our parents taught us. We know personal hygiene. We clean this body every single day pretty much, right? And when we go more than a day or two without taking a shower, you probably feel uncomfortable. You don't feel good walking through the world with this dirty body. Well, that's why you clean it every single day, right? Well, there's another part to this being. There's the physical body, but there's the mind as well. The mind is the non-physical part of this body, right? Well, if you've been going around for year after year after year without cleaning your mind, no wonder you feel uncomfortable. No wonder you get stress or anxiety, because you haven't been addressing this other part of this being who you are. You've only been cleaning up the body. And our parents didn't know how to clean the mind, so we never learned that growing up. So now as an adult, you have the ability to learn how to clean this mind, and now you can address this entire being of the body in the mind. And now you can feel comfortable walking through the world. As you clean this mind more and more and more, you experience more peace and more joy. Does that help you? Yeah? Okay. Yes, ma'am. There's a microphone there. There's some here too. That one sounds like the batteries are getting low.
I'm a mom and a wife.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I feel every feelings. I accept all the feelings.
Mm-hmm.
And even sometimes I'm painful or any bad feelings, I just accept that.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's normal. It's just experiences.
Mm-hmm.
But as a mom, as a wife, sometimes, for example, in China, we force our kids to learn to create a better life.
Mm-hmm.
And my husband always said, you should put him, my son, to learn, and so that if we die, he will have another happy life. But in my mind, I just let him go. If I die, I will never see him happy or unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
So in my case, it's very easy to let everything go.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes I cannot tell the difference between let it go, or sometimes I feel I am a selfish mom, or I'm trying to get away from my family, my kid. What's the difference? How can I find some balance between them?
Okay, so what the unenlightened mind can see very clearly is it can usually see the craving, desire, attachment. It can see the chasing after things. And like you were talking about, like forcing your children to do things. That's craving, desire, attachment. To force somebody or attempt to force somebody to do something. That's the craving, desire, attachment, the longing, the yearning, the wanting and expecting things to be done a certain way. Then the unenlightened mind can usually see the other side over here very clearly, which is, I don't care. Whatever happens, happens. You can usually see that very clearly, because that's what the mind does in the unenlightened state, is it swings back and forth between these two sides. Either you're chasing, or you're all the way on the other side and you're exhausted and you could care less what happens. But what the Buddha is doing is inviting you to come to the middle way, and he's showing you how to do that, where you can gradually walk towards something as a goal, as an objective or an interest. So when we understand that we are not permanent in our children's life, we are not permanent. Our goal as a parent is to guide them in the cultivation of wisdom so that when we're with them or we're away from them, they can make wise decisions that are going to lead to wholesome results. But what parents tend to do is they tend to live over here with craving, desire, attachment, where they're trying to force and control and put expectations on their children to be a certain way. And normally the reason why that's occurring is because that's what was done to them when they were growing up. Their parents were trying to force and control them. This isn't love. Oftentimes parents think that's love, trying to force and control their kids to do a certain thing. But that's not the love. That's the craving, desire, attachment. There might be love in there, but it's being polluted by craving, desire, attachment. So if you're trying to force your child and control them and put expectations on them, it's going to produce discontentedness in your relationship, and your child's going to ultimately resent what it is that you're doing, and they're going to resist against you. The more you try to force them to do something, the more they're going to push right back. Because think about it, when someone tries to force you to do something, the first thing you do is dig your heels in, and you're like, no, I'm not going to do that, right? So if you did that, that's not going to produce beneficial results with your child. But if you're over here where you could care less what happens to your kid, and you're just like, so what? I don't care. Like, let them go out there. If I die, I die. Whatever happens to them, happens to them. Who cares? That's not going to produce peacefulness either. So the middle way with guiding a child is to help them cultivate wisdom, is teach them and guide them without forcing or controlling them, right? So I have a son. He'll probably be here in a moment because he's in the city learning, and he's about to come here. So as a child is learning, you understand that you are impermanent in their life. He's not my son. He doesn't belong to me. He is his own individual being on this life, on this journey, needing to cultivate wisdom. And my role is essentially like a parallel process that I'm on the side of him, just kind of guiding him and helping him to be able to see wise decision making and how to make wise decisions, right? So if he's struggling with a particular thing, I might step in and say, hey, let me, I have some advice that's going to help you here. And I guide him. Rather than trying to force or control him to make decisions my way, I guide him. So I'll give you a specific example. When he was like 7 or 8 years old, he was hanging out with some kids in the village. And he came home, and me and my wife, we knew that he was headed for trouble with these friends because we know these people in the village, and we knew he was headed for trouble. So after him hanging out with them for several times, we said, hey, those friends, you're going to have some troubles with them. We advise that you don't spend time with them. And he's like, yeah, but those are my buddies. Those are my friends. I like to spend time with them. We're like, okay, up to you. You spend time with them if you like, but just so you know, you guys are going to have some troubles. And he's like, okay. So he just spends time with them, right? A couple of weeks later, he comes home. He doesn't have his bicycle helmet. And we're like, what happened to your bicycle helmet? He's like, I don't know. I came out of my friend's house and it was gone. And I was like, oh, okay. Well, who was at the house? And he named all the friends. And I said, who wasn't at the house? And then he named this one friend who wasn't at the house. And I was like, oh, I bet he's got it. So then we started to make decisions to help him get his motorbike helmet back. And then we said, see, this is the trouble that we were talking about. You're going to have trouble with these guys. And he's like, yeah, but those are my friends. I'm going to spend time with them. Blah, blah, blah. I was like, okay, up to you. Spend time with them. Up to you. So then he kept spending time with them. And then one day he came home, he was soaking wet. And we were like, what happened? He was like, they dumped a bucket of water over my head. And it wasn't Sangran or Thai New Year. It was just a regular time of year, and he got this water dumped over his head. And we're like, oh, okay, so what's your plan? Are you going to continue to hang out with these children, or can you see what mom and dad were talking about? And he was like, oh, I see what you guys are talking about now. I'm not going to hang out with them anymore. And I was like, okay, up to you, right? So then what I noticed is he started building this wisdom of how to hang out with friends, and there were these other group of kids in the village that we recommended that he hang out with because we knew that they were into wholesome things. So we started hanging out with those friends instead. And then over the course of his life, he's changed schools a couple times. And we notice each time he joins a new school, he tends to make wise friends and wholesome friends. Whereas if we would have forced him and controlled him early on, the first time at age 7 or 8 to hang out with the people we wanted him to hang out with, he would have never learned the wisdom of how to make wise friends, wise choices about who to hang out with. But because we didn't force him and we didn't control him, we just guided him to understand, and we just let him make whatever decisions he needed to make. Then he cultivated the wisdom of how to make wise friends. So now when he goes into different schools and different settings, he knows how to make wholesome friends. So you need to be able to make sure that you aren't controlling your children, because what the parents will do is you are attached to your child. So when they struggle, you struggle. When they're sad, you're sad. When they're frustrated, you're frustrated. Your feelings are attached to them, and you're wanting them to be permanently happy. And what you'll do is you'll step into their life and try to control various aspects of their life because you don't want them to be unhappy. And what you need to be able to understand is they're going to be unhappy because they're unenlightened. As a child, they're unenlightened. They haven't trained their mind enough yet. So you need to help them cultivate wisdom. And you can't do that by forcing and controlling them because they never understand the reason why. They don't understand why. So by allowing my son to struggle and have those difficulties with those kids in the village, he understood why. He understood the importance of making wise decisions about friends. And now he has that wisdom that now we don't even have to talk to him about what friends to make because he already has that wisdom. And now he does it on his own.
but we never forced him or controlled him. We just guided him and helped him to understand. So you're not interested in forcing or controlling or putting expectations, but you're not also interested in being over here where you could care less. You need to come to the middle where you sit down and you talk and you guide and you have discussions and you help them to cultivate wisdom. And you're going to need patience with this because they're not going to learn just like that. They're going to need to have multiple conversations about these things. Yeah, you're welcome. Anything else? Yeah, feel free. You guys have all these mics. Feel free to get one. You can get one here too. I have these. Yeah.
Hello, I have one question. You introduce me.
Yeah.
Hello.
I think the batteries on that one's going out, so maybe you can come get another one. This is impermanence. Even the batteries are impermanent, right? The teachings of the Buddha apply to all things, even modern technology. Just press the gray button. If you press the gray button, you'll see the... There you go.
Okay. First, I want to introduce my situation. I'm from China, and the last year is my worst year in my life. In April, I come Japan to start my study, but in April, my family, my life, everything changed because my father under surgery. I couldn't believe it, but it happened. And then I returned to China to take care of him. But at that moment, my grandmother also under surgery. So I feel so tired because every day I'm stay in the hospital. And then when my father woke up, I realized he even forget his name, his age, everything he can't remember. And then I help him to improve, but he should start to learn how to walk, how to speak, how to eat, and everything changed. And now, 1 year ago, 1 year's passed, but now his condition just have some improvement, but don't back to normal. And my grandmother in this year in March, she passed away because my mother in my 10 years old passed away. So my grandmother is love me the most. But he passed away. I can't believe it. Why these things happened? I feel alone. I think nobody behind with me, and and at this moment I need to return to China to keep my study. Yeah, but in Japan, I don't any close friends. I can't talk about anything. I just stay in my home and every day go to my university and come back home. I feel alone, and every day I can't sleep well. I tried everything. Maybe sometimes morning I wake up, I think, I should feel good. So I try to do meditation or practice or swim, but in the night or in the evening, I feel why everything changed? Why the reason?
Okay.
So I need your suggestion how to regulate my mood. Yeah. That's my question.
So your mind doesn't understand the natural laws, like I was talking about at the beginning. The very first natural laws that we talk about are these universal truths, because this is what the mind doesn't understand, this universal truth of impermanence. The unenlightened mind doesn't understand this, that things are constantly going to change in your life. The people that you have in your life
constantly coming and going, right? The health of your father and your grandmother, it's not permanent. They were born, so they're going to have to die. Every single one of us have to die. But when you don't understand the world around you is impermanent and constantly changing, you'll crave permanence, wanting grandma and dad to be permanently healthy, when in reality they can't be. It's physically impossible. No matter how enlightened somebody is, they're still going to experience sickness, aging, death, loss, and destruction. These are the 5 unobtainable things in life. Even the Buddha, he experienced sickness, aging, death, loss, and destruction. So what you're experiencing is just change, and your mind feels exhausted and tired because you're holding on and you're wanting dad and grandma to be permanent, when in reality they're not permanent. So things are constantly changing in the world, but your mind doesn't understand that, and that's why it's holding on. And just understanding that things are changing intellectually is one thing. You need to be able to understand that the world around you, everything is changing. Like, look here at the class. We had a certain number of people that were here at the beginning, and then more people came. And then some people have left, and now there's still more people coming, right? This is constant change. Even in this class, things are constantly changing. But if the mind craves permanence, the individual would be frustrated. Like I would be frustrated as people are coming and going, right? But that's not something that my mind has. I don't have a craving for the class to be permanent. So you need to understand intellectually that things are constantly changing, but then you need to practice and train your mind through the meditation and all the other aspects of this Eightfold Path, so that you can train your mind to let go. Because it's one thing to understand things are constantly changing intellectually, but your mind's still going to hold on. So like what I was speaking with this young lady here, and I was saying how we are not permanent in our child's life, and we can't crave our child to be permanently peaceful. It's one thing to understand that intellectually, but it's a whole other thing when you spend time with your child and now they come home with bad grades and you're angry because you want them to have permanently good grades. And now the mind's bitter and harsh and hostile with the child, rather than just sit down and guide them kindly and peacefully and joyfully. The mind doesn't know how to do that because it doesn't have the training. So I can say to you that you need to understand impermanence and that things are constantly changing, and you can understand that intellectually. But then when your mom or your brother or your sister or your grandfather or another person in your family starts to die or get sick, if your mind's holding on, you're going to struggle and have difficulties. So the first step is to learn this path so that you can be consistently training your mind to let go, to let go, to let go. And once you get this well underway, then there's other training beyond this that integrates into this. There's something called contemplation of death. This is really helpful for you to train your mind to let go of craving your family members to be permanent. It's where you sit and you imagine in your mind that they have died, and you kind of play that out in your mind for maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. And you might grieve during this time frame, but eventually your mind will regain its composure. And you do this several times, maybe for your parents, your siblings, if you have children, a life partner. You can do this even for pets, because your mind's going to crave for them to be permanent. And then when they get close to death, when they're sick and dying, you'll struggle and have difficulties during that time frame. But if you train your mind to let go, where you're not holding on and craving them to be permanent, then when they get close to death, you won't grieve. You won't be sad. So like when my mom died in 2017, I never grieved. I never was sad. I was never upset, because I had done this training when I was in my 20s, so that by the time she died, my mind was completely peaceful and completely joyful. But of course, I loved my mom, right? I have love for my mom, meaning I have an interest in seeing her be well, but I just wasn't craving for her to be permanent. So this is where you can see that the sadness and grief that happens at the time of death, it doesn't come from love. It comes from the mind's craving permanence, because you can get to the point where you love someone, but when they die, you're not upset. You're not sad. And this is where your mind is liberated and it's free. Because when people around you that are close to you get sick and die, it'll feel like someone cut you off at the knees or pulled the carpet out from under your feet. But that doesn't have to be the case. So this teaching It takes me 2.5 hours to teach it to you. And I've taught it many times, and I continue to teach it many times. And it's been recorded. It's in our books and all these things. So if you're really serious about eliminating the painful feelings that you're experiencing all throughout all parts of your life, you need to be able to train your mind in this teaching and learn it and develop it. And that's what's going to create the transformation in your mind and in your life. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Yep.
I don't know if, okay, it works. When it comes to making choices, we usually move toward feelings of like pleasure and away from pain. But then again, it's like kind of rooted in attachment. So how do we go about making moral and wise choices, whether big or small in life? Mm-hmm. Just in general, I guess, or like what would the enlightened being do?
Yeah, so what you learn is you learn this natural law of karma, of cause and effect or action and result. You learn the wise decisions that produce wholesome results. So the one that I showed you so far is I just showed you a little bit about right speech, because when we don't understand the natural law, we will be out there thinking we have all the best intentions in the world. We'll think that we're speaking in all the best ways, and this conversation will blow up on you. And you're like, oh my goodness, what just happened? Right? Because you thought you had the best intentions. But if you don't have right intention from what the Buddha teaches, and you don't have right speech from what the Buddha teaches, you'll have those situations. An enlightened being, they will experience like 99.99999% of all their conversations and all their interactions will go just fine. And everybody will be just peaceful and joyful around you. But there's still an occasional situation where someone's going to be discontent around you. Their mind's causing it, but you're speaking in a way that it's less likely to occur. But it can even occur for an enlightened being, because your enlightenment isn't determined on what other people do. It's based on what's going on in your mind. So even though that person's bitter and harsh and hostile, you can still be peaceful. In the unenlightened mental state, when someone's disrespectful to you, you'll be frustrated, you'll be agitated or annoyed, because the mind's craving for everybody to be respectful. So by the time you get to enlightenment, you'll still experience people occasionally being bitter or harsh or hostile, but your mind's completely peaceful and joyful, and you are making wise decisions based on this natural law. That's what you're awakening to. When we talk about awakening and cultivating wisdom, it's about this natural law. And now you'll navigate the world differently, where, like, say, for example, in the unenlightened state, if you have a life partner and they start being argumentative with you, with a lack of wisdom, you'll argue right back. You'll be bitter, harsh, and hostile, and you'll try to prove that you're right and they're wrong. And now it's like fireworks, and you're both feeling miserable at the end of it. Where by the time you're making your way to enlightenment, you understand the last thing you're interested in doing is sitting there and arguing with someone. Yelling and hollering and shouting isn't going to produce any beneficial results. But when you have craving in your mind and you're longing, yearning, you can't step away from the conversation. But as you're training your mind and you know that argumentative speech doesn't produce anything beneficial, when this person starts to argue, you'll just walk away. And you'll be completely comfortable with that. And you'll know this anger that this person has, they're causing it themselves. You're not causing it. But in the unenlightened state, as you're walking away from them, and they're like, see, you don't love me. You're walking away from me. If you love me, you would stand here and talk to me. You'll be drawn back in, because you'll have craving and clinging. And you won't have the wisdom to realize, no, the very most loving and kind thing I can do is walk away from this conversation. But as you're gaining more and more wisdom, you'll do that. You'll walk away from a conversation and let this person be angry, because you can't fix their anger, because you're not causing it. So there's many decisions like this that you need to be able to learn, because the way you navigate the world now and the way you do things now is with this lack of wisdom, and it keeps producing these same results over and over. Broken relationships, arguments, hostility, bitterness, stress and anxiety in your own mind, all these problems. But as you start implementing this training more and more, you see the improvements to your mind and to your life. And this is where you're like, wow, this stuff is working. This is the truth. That's why it's been around for 2,500 years, because it actually works. Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have two questions to ask. It comes from some changes happened to my life recently. I got laid off a couple of months ago. When that thing happened, I felt pretty much actually, because I was longing for a break in my career, as well as I was also burnt out for a long while during my last job. So I was longing for a career break. So I was pretty much relieved, and then I started to traveling around the world, including a lot of countries. But then along the way, I feels like I perceived less happiness than expected. I thought I would be really, relaxful and then also happiness along the way. But things happens that when I have that much enough time to travel around to completely relax myself, I started to perceive less happiness. So I just wonder, am I just always like craving for something that not happening, like present, like ongoingly happening? Am I always craving for something that I'm not in that circumstances, or I'm just not so affirmative to my choices or something like that?
Yeah, the mind can have any number of cravings. It's not usually just one craving, particularly early in your practice. There can be multiple cravings. So maybe initially you crave to travel, and now initially the first few months or whatever, you really are excited and happy about that. But then as that craving is extinguished, now you're just not as happy anymore because that craving is essentially being diminished. And now you're out there traveling and it's just not giving you the same pleasure that it once did, because you were getting conditional pleasure, conditional pleasant feelings based on the fact of this new thing that you were doing, which was traveling. And now every new city you went to, it was, wow, it's exciting, it's so new. But eventually that gets old. And now the mind doesn't have that same thrill anymore. So an enlightened being will travel, but they're not forming their feelings based on whether they travel or not. They can be perfectly peaceful and joyful at home. They can be perfectly peaceful and joyful as they're traveling, but it's not the travel that is the source of their feelings that they're experiencing, these mental qualities that are just always present. So there's some craving there, or else you wouldn't be experiencing that discontentedness. But specifically which one or how many, that's something that you need to be able to learn. The mindfulness, that's what the mindfulness does. It gives you the ability to look inward and look at your own mind and be introspective so that you can identify what are the cravings. And where you have trouble doing that, then a teacher helps you through personal guidance to be able to uncover what exactly are the specific cravings so you can eliminate them. Because when you eliminate the cravings, that's where the peace and joy will come in. So you don't have to eliminate the travel, you don't have to eliminate the job, you don't have to eliminate the boyfriend or the girlfriend or whatever. It's not the object that you're eliminating. You're eliminating the way the mind longs and yearns for it, wanting it to be permanent. So you're going to need to develop some mindfulness to be able to look inward to see what are the specific cravings, and then train your mind to let them go. Because the unenlightened mind with craving, it's kind of like the grass is always greener on the other side, right? Wherever you are, it's like the mind always wants to be over here. It's never content here. It always thinks something over here is better. And then when you get over there, it's like, the grass is just as green over here as it was over there. And now the mind's like, kind of mundane. So you need to be able to get to the point where you're completely content and joyful right where you're at. And then it doesn't mean you don't do other things. It just means that you understand that doing this other thing isn't going to be based on you chasing pleasant feelings. It's going to be based on wise decision making, that you would like to move towards this particular goal or objective, but without craving, desire, attachment.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. Can I ask a following question? Mm-hmm. So, similar to what happened when the layoff happened, I thought I would feel relieveful, and then I thought I let it go when things happened as well, because I was pretty much like, it was like 4 months ago already. Mm-hmm. But one of my previous coworkers, she messaged me last night asking, like, trying to connect with me, catching up a few things, and asking me how things goes in my life. And then I was replying her that, everything was going well. I was just opening to all the opportunities around me right now. And then just last night, I had a dream about I got laid off in my dream again, like from the HR and my line manager before. Like they were all telling me that you got laid off. So I just wonder, was there a gap in between me, how I see myself, whether I let it go, compared to whether I actually let it go?
Yeah, so whether that's the case or not, I would need to talk to you more and ask you more questions to know 100%, right? I just can't tell just from the basic information that you're sharing. But oftentimes what happens is when we experience a certain thing, when the mind doesn't have this training, it will kind of bury it and suppress it or repress it. And then it can come up later in future months or years, even in a dream, it can come up to your mind. It's kind of surfaces in your mind. So that could be what's happened, is maybe initially the mind didn't really deal with it so well. And maybe you thought you did because you were relieved, but maybe what really happened is you might have suppressed it and now it might be bubbling back up. I'm not sure. I'd have to talk with you in more detail to really know. But either way, the solution is this. You really need to get to the solution, which is to purify the mind and train the mind and let it go, where you're not holding on to this experience in the past, that you're moving beyond it and you're no longer forming feelings, either happy or sad, based on this experience that's happened in the past.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay. I have one question. What will be after death?
It depends. If somebody is unenlightened, they're going to experience rebirth. That's what we've all been experiencing, just constant rebirth. And as I mentioned to you guys, there's nothing in the teachings of the Buddha that are based in belief, including rebirth. You can actually independently verify that the cycle of rebirth is true. Right now, you might be believing that you only have one life, but you don't have any evidence of that. The only thing that you have is right now you can't remember your previous lives, perhaps. But as you start training your mind and you lift this pollution out of your mind, you might actually start having memories, vivid memories of your past lives. This is how the Buddha figured this out. So if someone's unenlightened, they will experience rebirth into one of the 5 realms. If someone is enlightened and they die, the Buddha leaves this as an undeclared teaching. He doesn't say what is or isn't next for an enlightened being. But by the time you get to enlightenment, your mind's so peaceful and so joyful, it doesn't matter. If there's something next, great. It's either as good as what you're experiencing or better. And if there isn't something next, then so be it. But the Buddha didn't teach an afterlife for an enlightened being because let's just say there was an afterlife. He didn't say there was or there wasn't, but let's just say there was. And let's just say he describes this wonderful, amazing thing that's going to happen once you get to enlightenment and die. Well, if that's the case, now that's just one more thing that your mind has to stop craving. So if you're craving and longing and yearning for an afterlife, you can't ever get to enlightenment in this life because your mind's still longing for that. By the time you get to enlightenment, you're completely peaceful and joyful in your current present moment. Your mind's no longer longing, yearning for a future thing. So he wisely didn't declare what does come next or doesn't come next for an enlightened being. He leaves it as an undeclared teaching, but he does explain that for an unenlightened being that there's rebirth. And we can independently verify this, and this has been independently verified by some people. So that's what's occurring. Depending on the condition of your mind, you will either be reborn or not. But getting to enlightenment and not being reborn isn't to say that there is something next or there isn't something next. It's just saying there isn't rebirth in the cycle of rebirth.
But how can we independently verify that there is a rebirth after death?
If you go to volume 11, chapter 105, I have 17 different criteria there that'll explain to you how to independently verify the cycle of rebirth. So it's in volume 11, chapter 105. And it's in volume 11, chapter 105 for a reason, because that's usually something that people approach later. But you'll see it there in volume 11, chapter 105. Most of those books over there were printed out recently, but there might be one or two that was printed out prior to me adding that information in there. But if it's not in there for any reason, just get a different book. Or you can look at the version online, because that one will surely have it in there. It's chapter 105 in volume 11. You're welcome. Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I have another question. So, in wanting to be enlightened but not like craving it, is it more so you make the choice to follow the path, to walk the path without expecting any results and detaching from the craving of being enlightened, while at the same time, like, how do you find that balance between, I would like to be enlightened, I want to get here, but like also detaching from it and just staying present? And do you understand what I mean? Okay.
Yeah, this is a common question. So if you were chasing after enlightenment, you were craving and longing, yearning for it, you'll never actually get to it. But if you were on the other side, where you could care less about what's happening in your life and you just didn't pay attention to your mind and inner improvement, you're not going to get to it there either. So the middle way is to gradually work towards it as a goal, objective, or interest. But oftentimes what people are thinking is a goal is actually not a goal. So if somebody has a goal and you get really happy when you get your goal accomplished and you get sad and frustrated when you don't accomplish it, that's not actually a goal. That's a craving, desire, attachment. That's a longing, yearning. You're basing your inner feelings on whether you get this thing or not. A true goal, a true objective, a true interest is something that you're working towards, and you can maintain your peacefulness or joy whether you accomplish it or not. And now let's just say you're 80% of your way to this goal. You just look at it, you're like, 80% of the way there. Well, I could extend my timeline and give myself more time. I could add more resources to be able to give me the ability to accomplish this goal. Or you know what? I'm completely fine with 80%. I don't suggest you do that with enlightenment. I suggest you just keep pursuing it, right? And that you keep working towards it, but without this longing, yearning. And one of the ways that I teach people to accomplish this is that oftentimes we talk about enlightenment as something you need to attain. You need to attain something, where when you don't have something, you will tend to chase after it, right? But another way to think about this, and this actually goes better with what your experience is going to be, is that if you think about it as your mind is already enlightened and you've just got these pollutions that are in the way and you just got to get those pollutions out of the mind, then you can experience those qualities. Now you already got it, so you don't have to chase after it, right? So this is actually will help you to not long and yearn and crave it. And it's actually more of what you experience, because it's kind of like if there's the sun and then there's the clouds in front of the sun, as you peel away the clouds, the rays of the sun are going to slowly start shining through. And that's what you experience with enlightenment, that as you slowly are training your mind with this, the qualities of enlightenment start to peer through more and more and more until eventually you're experiencing those qualities for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. It's like, whoa, you know, your mind is enlightened. But you can experience like a month or two where you're like completely peaceful and joyful for that entire month or two. But then you get a little bit of discontentedness. And so the idea and the understanding that your mind is already enlightened, you just need to clear out the pollution, actually goes better with what you experience, and it'll help you to not crave and long and yearn for it, because you think like, oh, I already got it. I just need to get rid of this pollution so that I can experience it.
So it's about, okay, I like that. It's about shedding the illusion and like reaching like within rather than like reaching like for something outside of you, because like it's already within. It's
already there. And it's just that you need enough wisdom and enough training to know how to get rid of the pollution so that you can experience it more and more and more. This is where like you've probably had moments where you might have been sitting somewhere like on a bench and you're looking at the landscape and you're like, wow, I could sit here all day and I don't need anything. I can just sit here and just truly enjoy this view. In that moment, we might call it temporary enlightenment, even though there's no such thing. It's kind of like temporary enlightenment. For that 1 minute or that 5 minutes, your mind was completely peaceful and joyful. You didn't need anything external, and you could just sit there on that park bench and just be there all day long, and you don't need anything. But then eventually it's like, hey, we got to go. The bus is leaving. Come on, let's go. And now you got to go. It's like, oh, man, I got to go. Like, that's the craving. That's the longing, yearning. But for those couple of moments, you were completely, fully satisfied. You were inwardly fulfilled. You were 100% satisfied. You don't need anything.
That's what enlightenment is. But now you just need to learn how to experience that for longer and longer periods of time during your day when you're stuck in traffic, or your boss comes into your office and says, hey, I need you to work on this new project, or your grandmother dies, or your dad is sick, or something like that, or your children come home with bad grades. You need to learn how to maintain that where your mind's not craving for something different than what it's currently experiencing. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
That's the real training. Okay, I don't see any questions. Oh, we have another one? Oh, yeah. Yes, ma'am. Not yet.
No?
There it is.
Maybe now.
There you go.
I have a question that I still need to formulate in my mind. I come from a Western society, from Italy. And so we're used to, let's say, we need to work, we need to have a family, we need to build a house and stuff like that. How can you not accomplish these objectives in this like enlightened world, but how can you live in that kind of society?
So are you asking, how do you live in a society where you are working towards goals and objectives or interests, but not crave and long and yearn for them?
Exactly.
So this is where you need to train your mind, right? By training your mind, you'll be able to learn how to do that, because the mind doesn't know how to do that. Because each one of these situations is different, right? So like my son, at one time, he came home with grades that I knew that were not helpful for him, and it wasn't going to lead to beneficial results in his life. So rather than getting angry and frustrated and agitated, I needed to sit down and talk to him and say, you know, here you have an F on this report. You know, what is it that led to this? What decisions did you make that led to this? What are the decisions that you can make that are new decisions that can lead to improvement in this grade? What support do you need from me in order to be able to accomplish that new grade? Right? These are all things that I could sit down and talk with them about. So you're going to need to learn how to pursue a career, but without craving, desire, attachment. You're going to need to learn how to work towards a nicer home or more wealth or these kinds of things without longing, yearning, and forming your feelings based on it. But me just telling you what to do isn't going to help you get there. You actually need to know this whole training. You need to know all the different factors. It's not just one thing or 3 minutes or 5 minutes of explaining to you how to pursue certain goals and objectives without craving, desire, attachment, because there needs to be this full training that the mind is fully encompassed with, that then you can learn and understand how to pursue things without craving, desire, attachment, because the mind doesn't know how to do that in the unenlightened state. So you're going to need to be able to learn the training, working to knock down the pollution, and then in each situation, you're going to need to figure out how to do this thing without craving, desire, attachment. And wherever you see your mind longing and yearning, you're going to need to cut it off and let it go and restrain the mind. It's almost like if you were riding a horse and you were to pull the reins back to stop the horse from going forward. You need to have enough mindfulness that you can see your mind longing, yearning, and you can pull it back. And then over time, your mind won't long and yearn anymore. It's kind of like if you had 6 animals and they were all tied to a post or a pillar, and they had a rope around their neck and they were tied to this post and pillar. Initially, these wild animals are going to pull and pull and tug, and they're going to keep getting yanked back to this post and pillar. But eventually the animals are going to be like, I can't go anywhere. I'm just going to sit here and relax by this post or pillar. I'm going to be calm, right? Your mind is the same way. It's going to keep pulling and pulling and pulling and pulling, and you have to keep yanking it back and yanking it back and yanking it back. And then eventually your mind's going to be calm and it's just going to be still. It's not going to keep pulling. But you need all these factors to be able to do that. It's not just one thing that I can say to you that's going to teach you how to do that. So you need to learn this entire Eightfold Path. Okay, so I think that's everything from here and online. So I'm just going to end class by thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for your questions. Thank you for the discussion and interest to learn and grow on the path. If you guys would like to learn more, there's plenty of opportunities for that. This Friday, we actually have a social event here at 6 p.m. That's the next thing that we have going on. It's called Temple Movie Fun Night, where we're actually going to be showing a movie. We have our popcorn machine that comes out, Or actually, hold on, no, this week is game night, I think. No, yeah, this week is game night. Last week was movie night, right? So now we have game night this Friday, where we actually play board games with everybody. So there'll be people here from our community. You'll be able to meet other people that have been studying for a while. It's like a social event. It's like a party. We have music playing, we have snacks, we have games. It's a real fun time. So if you'd like to come at 6 p.m., you can come. You can bring your friends with you if you like. You'll get a chance to kind of hang out with the different people that are here. That's the next event. On Saturday and Sunday, I have classes at 9 a.m. and at 9 p.m. The 9 p.m. classes I do from home. There's not a live audience. It's all online. It's live streamed. But at 9 a.m., I do it here and I live stream it and have a live audience. And then on Sunday at 3 p.m., we're starting a retreat. It's a retreat that we do once a year. It's called Purification of the Mind to Attain Enlightenment. It's all the teachings that you need to be able to move the mind to enlightenment itself. So if you would like to join that, you're more than welcome. It starts at 3 p.m. on Sunday, and it just goes for 2 hours on Sunday. But then on Monday through Friday, we're doing 9 a.m. to 12:30. And then we take a break where we go out on excursions and we go do things outside in the local community. And then from 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m., we have some more learning. So this is what I call an active retreat. It's not a silent retreat where everybody's quiet and those kinds of things. It's where you actually learn the teachings and you go out in the community to be able to apply the teachings. So we're going to be visiting the hot springs. We're going to be visiting an elephant sanctuary. We're going to go to a children's orphanage. We're going to go to a recreation area, like a reservoir, like a park. So we're going to be going to these different excursions, and people can come along if they like or not. It's up to them. But nonetheless, we learn for about 3.5 hours in the morning up to 12:30, 9 to 12:30. Then we take the excursion, or people go off and go to work or go hang out, whatever they would like to do. And then we start back up at 6:30 to 8:30. So some people might just come for the evening sessions, but you can come and go in this retreat as you like. The details are on our website and over there on the bulletin board. You can also talk to me if you like. I can help you to understand what we do during this retreat. So if you would like to be involved in any of these activities, you're more than welcome to find those on our bulletin board or on our website, or you can come talk to me and I'll be able to help you get plugged into the videos or podcasts or audiobooks or books or whatever it is that you would like. Because if you're tired of the broken relationships, if you're done with the anger and the frustration and all these other discontent feelings, the guilt and shame and fear and stress, the teachings of the Buddha are here to help you, but you just need to decide that you're ready to move beyond that and experience this better way of life. So again, thank you guys for being here, and perhaps I'll see you guys in a future class. Have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. We'll see you next time. Sawadee Kap. Sawadee Kap.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.